I'm very happy and honored to be in the school and to contribute to this great school. And I would like to say, if I may, that I would like to dedicate this conference to the students, my previous and my actual students, the ones I have now. Because in the school, I think what makes sense is to speak to the students, and that's the approach that I'll try to give to this lecture. So it will be a bit more focused on the students. And by that, I mean that when we are students, and I still remember, we all want to design and build museums. Museums are big buildings like that, but sometimes reality doesn't work that way. Most of the times it doesn't. But that does not mean that we will give up architecture or that we will not put our best efforts. And at least this is what I can witness. This is my life experience. And as Professor Posiglione said, my professional life has been very diversified, both in scale and in function of the buildings. And that has been making it very pleasant and interesting. So I would like to start by my first built work, which is, as you see, a sanitary facility. And this happened when I was working for a local a small town, and I was so tired of failing the technical projects that I had to give my approval to if they were good, which usually they were not. And usually the technicians who presented the works, all they wanted was to demolish and build new. So it was a big fight to make people understand that things are not opposite. And they could have old and new both, and so that the architectural heritage could benefit from that. So what you see on the image is a simple building, which I will point out. So that's the building. And when I knew that the city mayor had bought it to build some public facilities for the tourists who visited the castle, I asked him to design the place, because I wanted to show people how, in a very modest way, how things could be done. And this is the outside of the building, and on the inside, I decided to show how we could, in a very simple and economical way, combine both the traditional and the new situation. So basically, the stone walls were kept. The new ceiling was built in wood in a traditional way, and a skylight, two skylights were open across the space, so that they could both introduce natural light and ventilation to this small space. So this was useful both to me as a public servant to explain to people what I meant by example of what could be done by rebuilding and transforming the interior, not necessarily demolishing and transforming everything. And this other work was a public competition that I won. And this is, again, a small-scale project. It is a garden that's hidden behind this wall. This is the municipal library of the city. And with this competition drawing, it's easier to explain. So that's the library, and this is the garden behind. The idea was to take advantage of two ruins stone ruins existed inside the building, the garden. And this garden was well known in the city. Everybody knows it as the Scary Garden, because this building had had a fire, and it was abandoned for many years, and the garden as well. So for us kids who studied in a school nearby, whole generations of people knew this as a Scary Garden. So it was renovated, and my option was to put in the center a tea house, a small building, and you can see that it's in the historical center. The cathedral is nearby, and work once again with always with the ground and the topography, respecting the characteristics of the space. So I decided to take advantage of the existing ruins, and little by little transform them so that they could become, for instance, again, but this is no obsession, of course, again, a public sanitary facility here. And if we enter, we see that we have a skylight that provides us both with natural light and ventilation, but when it rains, it also works as a cascade where the rainwater falls and is collected here on this stone basin that existed on the site. Well, this is an image of the building for the tea house during construction and the final result. So the idea was simply to work both with stone, the existing stone, and complete it somehow with a new but also very old, of course, material, the brick, so that the contrast between the old and the new was very clear, but both natural materials, both with a nice texture and with nice light effects, which I think is important for architecture. And I created a central cone around which a spiral stair goes to the upper floor, but also to a small basement through a narrow stair here. So this is the area for the staff, and this is the kitchen. And if we enter the kitchen, this is the chimney. So this is a trick of a very small scale building with very, very tiny spaces. So it's both very simple and very intricate, very complex in the way it communicates to several small spaces. The staircase spiraling around the cone and going to the tea house, to the tea room upstairs, where there's a fireplace, and there's another small space like a small UFO, where some places very low ceiling on that side, but that can be used and is used for kids' birthday parties, for instance, because it's a small space. And getting back to the outside, so in the center of the space is the tea house. This is the upper level of the garden, and here we have the seats for an outdoor cinema and a puppet theater over there. So here we can see the projection booth for the cinema, which projects on this screen, and the screen belongs to the surface, to the facade of the puppet theater. So these upper doors open for the puppets, and upstairs there's another room for string puppets, and in front of the puppet theater some seats, because this garden is close next door to the elementary school. So the idea was to bring the kids to build puppets and then make shows in this theater. An existing fountain that was there and which was cleaned and maintained, And inside the puppet theater, going upstairs, we see the place where this counter has doors that open so that the string puppets can be manipulated from upstairs over the stage. And because the garden is connected to the public library, which is the building that I showed you at first, and it has this door, I decided to create a small space outside to be an outside reading room in summer when it's cool and it's pleasant to be outside. And of course the furniture to be there. And moving to the rest of the space, we have the connections and the paths to the garden, where simply some more trees were added, and long benches along the existing walls were added also, so that people could sit there and watch their kids playing and all that. And another feature important to the site is the medieval wall. This is the medieval wall of the city, one of the doors, and it was the western limits of the property. So of course it was kept, and some light projectors were added so that at night it works as the background of the whole garden. And even at the entrance, there was a neighbor who had a very ugly house attached to the property, and because of course I could not demolish the house, I decided just to add a new skin to the side, so that at the entrance, at least this house would not look so much as an intruder, but even though it is private, it would be part of the public garden. And moving on, sorry. Okay, why did I come back? Because of this. And this is something that I'm very happy and proud of. This was one of my first clients. I graduated in '88, so the project is, sorry, I'm getting lost with this. The project is from '89, and what I mean is that in '89 I did the first project. It was built, and 10 years later the client called me again for an extension of the hotel, and right now I'm designing the second extension of the hotel. What this means is that for us architects it's very important to gain the trust of our clients. It's always a professional relationship, of course, but it becomes quite personal. And if we conquer the confidence, the trust of the client, it might happen that in a second opportunity they will call us again. If we do a bad job, of course, there are plenty of architects in the world, so they will call someone else. And this is something that happened to me, and I'm very grateful and happy for that, for this client, and it has been a very interesting and challenging professional relationship. So the hotel is in the city center. Again, you see the cathedral, and this is a photo from the building process. And here I would like to very briefly explain. So it's a small hotel, and the main feature, which surprised me very much, was that inside the hotel there is the medieval wall. And I didn't know that when I started the project. The client didn't even have that clear conscience, because the medieval wall was totally plastered and hidden by both the plaster and some spaces against it. So to me it was very clear, very simple, that the city wall should be the main feature, the main actor in the project. So what you see here on the ground floor is the medieval wall, and the building is against it, of course. And then on the first floor, you see that there's a connection here to this space that existed. And this is the extension that was built 10 years later. And it keeps growing because it's a house on the other street, because these are two different streets. This is at lower level and on the upper level. And then we get to the attic of this bigger building of the hotel, and to that level there, and then finally the last level of the other house. Okay, now it's maybe easier to understand. A cross section, this is the passage through the medieval wall here. This is a bit abstract, but you'll understand when I show the photos. And so the main hotel, which is a small hotel, of course, the hotel with the medieval wall in between, and then the extension on the other side. Well, this is a hotel from the outside, and this is the hotel from the inside. So what was hidden was put into light, both natural and electrical lights to take advantage. And all tourists, all guests, when they go to their rooms, they have a promenade along the medieval wall, because the medieval wall really is present all around the hotel. So, as you can see on this brief sequence, the medieval wall is the main feature. And also, I decided to take advantage of some scars of the existing building to take advantage of more plastic effect of that, as well as introducing natural light from a big skylight on the roof, creating the sunlight, introducing sunlight where before was complete darkness. And what happens is that even though it's a small hotel, tourists, they always go around because they get curious, and they go and look at every corner, because everything is different, and they get different points of view. And this big structure to hold the big skylights also unifies both sides of the space over the medieval wall. And a small building, a brick building, was created, and now is going to be transformed into another use. But once again, the texture of different materials and the contrast and the geometry of the elements is present. And this is the connection to the other side of the medieval wall. So when we go through, we find that there is another space. So what you see here is the corridors, and they make a balcony, an interior balcony, of the extension into the existing first phase of the work. And once again, the stairs, now these ones are not curved, they are parallel to the medieval wall and to the existing stone walls. And from one part of the hotel, we can look back and see the others. So there is this play of looks, and people who move around, they see each other, they see people who are sitting on the sofas, see people who are going to their bedrooms, or people who are going to breakfast, because this has this kind of interaction of visual connection inside the space. And on top, I decided to create a hidden belvedere. I mean, it's a sightseeing place. So it's a balcony where only the guests can come, but they can have the opportunity of having an overall view towards the historical center. And this is another competition, and this is a design a project that I did, starting by the landscape. I knew the place before, and I find this one of the most beautiful landscapes I know, and both static and dynamic, because when we are lucky enough to find the sequence of the clouds climbing from the valley, it really is a magical space, and the cemetery is on this kind of landscape. And this is the view of the final result, but before, the space I knew was this, of course. And when the City Hall launched the competition, the space they had, the plot of land they had bought was that. The existing cemetery was already full, and so my approach was to enlarge the cemetery, but because they wanted to keep the old chapel, a small chapel, so the main entrance is still on the old cemetery, which has this central axis leading to the chapel. And I decided to connect in the middle, where the transition of levels happens. And this is a very simple idea of City of the Dead. So it's as if each block of graves were an urban block, and the paths and pedestrian paths are the streets, and the graves are the buildings. So nothing new. It's basically that idea. Some images of the project, rendering, and then the work. The old cemetery was all unpaved. It had just earth. So the first option was to give dignity to the existing cemetery, so to provide some pavement and also some lights. So the same in the central axis leading to the chapel that you see here under construction, and by the end with the pavement, and at night with the lights on the pavement. Well, but because it is an existing cemetery, if we want to work with the existing and not just cut everything and destroy and adapt to our wishes, we have to adapt ourselves. So some small details, but things that even were not designed during the design process, but because I always find very important to follow on-site the building process, I can adapt and introduce small, never big, because the big changes mean big money. That's not a wise thing to do. And no client would thank me for that. But small changes which do not change the budget of the work of the construction, that is a wise thing to do, I think. And just small details like this can happen. Well, the existing cemetery has 2 levels, as I said. So there's this step here, and I chose this step to connect to the new cemetery. So there is a ramp connecting to the upper level and a ramped stair connecting to the lower level. And the existing wall was just cut like with a knife to connect, so that it connects to the new cemetery, where the only building is this, and I will explain it in a bit. Well, this is the plan of one of the blocks, the grave blocks, and this is something that I would like to tell a story about, because it was very important for me. It was very determinant to be aware of this situation. I was at the old cemetery with the client, the city mayor, and there was a lady who was there honoring her husband's grave. And the old lady, she was very upset, and she started crying and speaking to her dead husband, and it was and we moved away because we felt that we were trespassing, we were disturbing her intimacy. And I realized that the cemetery is both a public space but a very private space, because when people go there and people have someone there someone they love, someone they care about. This situation, like the one I witnessed, can happen. And so, to me, that was useful in the sense that I decided to create in the middle of the block a green wall, a bush wall, so that it becomes a green screen. And why is that? Because what happens is that now that the cemetery is already occupied, it might happen that someone to be on that side honoring their deceased one, and someone here on the opposite side doing the same. And it is the place where they must be, because it's where the person is buried, but they are in front of each other. But with this green wall separating them, which you see here on the section and the elevation, they don't see each other, and so at least they have more privacy, even though they are just across each other. That on one hand. On the other hand, on the most architectural point of view, because in Portugal, our cemeteries, as you saw, and we'll see in the other photos, our cemeteries, I guess like here in Italy, they are like a bric-a-brac of things. Crosses, angels, flowers, plastic, natural flowers, lanterns, all kinds of things that families like to put there, and they have the right to do it. At first, I had this illusion of designing and saying that all graves would be this or that way, but I quickly realized that didn't make any sense. So this green screen also provides some neutrality to the site. Well, here is the building of one of the blocks of the graves, and because the topography is not flat, it's not horizontal, not at all, and that's something that in Portugal we and here as well, but we have to deal with is the topography. Well, because I wanted, of course, the graves to be horizontal, this was a big effort of topography and of measurements to be made, so that each block starts at 0 and then ends at 30 centimeters. And that happens on everyone, so that all around it gets to the right place. And this is a central piece, literally, to the project, because this is a monolith. By that I mean one single stone. And the builder, he complained and complained, and he tried to convince me to let him build this in concrete and just surface it with stone. And I said, no way, because this is an important piece for the cemetery. It's a symbolic piece. It's the place where the coffin is laid before the last farewell. And this is a schist stone. And as probably you know, schist is a stone that breaks, disaggregates quite easily. So it was very complicated for the builder to find a huge rock that he would cut until getting this 2 by 1 meter block. And as you can see here, it was placed in the right spot during the build process, and it is protected here by plastic, because after building the walls, the big machine that brought the big stone could not enter anymore, so it had to be put ahead. And in this next drawing, I'd like to explain to you what I think is important for topography. Because in this project, I decided to start at a higher point with 2 rows of cement blocks. And then, as you see, they go here, but then there's a step because the ground goes down. But the cement blocks are always horizontal to me, and also the walls around the cemetery. To me, that was very important to have these horizontal layers of blocks and the walls as well, so that by the end they would end exactly at the height of the existing cemetery. And why is that? Because the existing cemetery wall was this. It was built very poorly, very naturally. It was just a huge amount of...
You have other 20 minutes. Arrange your time.
Okay.
It's a 45 minutes lecture. Sorry to interrupt you, but just to be aware.
Oh, that's good, because they had told me the double.
No.
That's good, okay.
No.
Okay, then...
We have all to go back.
Okay.
I
understood
because you were going to...
Okay. Well, then I'll have to jump, or maybe I'll show just to my students later some of the projects. Okay. Well, this was the old wall, and to me the important is this, I mean by this that even though it is a very poor wall, it has an incredible quality of plastic quality of the surface, as we can see on these images. And so for the new walls, I tried to make something similar in the sense that they are straight, they are totally straight and geometric, but they get this kind of surface. And this is the building process of the wall, so that by the end the contrast is this, and we have the different levels that I was talking about, and here you can see the quality of the surface. And for this I also chose two things in construction terms. One is the quality of the plaster, which is very rough, and to get these shadows. And the other one was to use whitewash, the traditional whitewash, to paint instead of chemical paint, because it provides a very different quality of light. And we go around and around, and as you can see here, and that's what I said before, if we are careful, and only by being careful with the measures, we can, by the end, achieve what we imagined in the project. If not, it would be a failure. So we have to be very, very accurate if that's what we want to do, of course. But to me, it was clear that it was what I meant to do. And so that I could have very different and contrasting type of walls, the new and the old ones. Also, I decided to open some openings on the walls, like you see here, so that people who cross the street, even though they don't enter the cemetery, because in Portugal the tradition is to have closed cemeteries and only the gate is the opening. All the rest, the walls are high and closed. These ones are high as well, and they are protected, but they have windows, let's say, so that people who walk on the street can look inside and see the look inside. And some more materials to go around and to, once again, connect the materials and the sequence. And this was the lanterns that I designed to be built so that each of these pedestrian paths would become like lanterns of procession during the night, and they can also be seen from the outside through those windows that I told you about. And this is something that I like very much, to watch and to learn from the workers who do the work that I intended and I thought and I imagined in the project. And so these pavers are doing the pavement with the stones, and they are absolutely brilliant on the detail and on building these traditional pavements we have in Portugal, and which I care to use so that we keep some of our traditions, introducing new features from the project. Well, and this is the central square, not the central square because this is the only square. I call this the ceremonial square. And I would like just to explain. So this is the big stone I told you about. From it, some lines on the pavement come across. So they make a cross so that the coffin, somehow It means that from here the coffin can go in all directions inside the cemetery. And this is the place where people gather around the coffin for the last goodbye. And here you see the quality and importance of the stone. It's not just stone, but it is this kind of stone, because especially when it rains, it becomes all colors show up, and this becomes a real tapestry of stone. So as you can see here, the monolith, which seemed a gray stone, it's not gray at all. This is something that I think is also important to me, to use stones and materials from the region, which was the case. And I also designed these two water fountains because people also get thirsty, and because this is a cemetery, but this is a place where people spend some time, and it also gives some framing to the place where it is. And to explain the building, usually people when they see the image, they think it is the chapel. It is not, but it could be. It was a thought and it could one day easily become a chapel, because I think it has the monumentality, even though it's very, very tiny, as you can see. And the program asked for something morgue here, and once again, I decided to introduce the facilities for the people who are there, and also a storage space for the gardener who takes care of the cemetery. So a sequence of the interior volumes and space of this morgue, and going out again and watching the storage for the gardener, which has a double floor, so it's like a duplex for the storage, and the building, some views of the volumes. It's a building that is both an outside wall and a building, a facade and a wall. It's ambiguous, and it's intended to be, and the connection to the streets on the outside, both day and night, because this was intended to be seen at both times. And here you see what I said before, the bric-a-brac, the confusion, the huge confusion of the traditional cemetery. That also happens now with the new cemetery for the graves, of course. It's the family's right to do it, but with the screen that. This is an early photo, but we start to understand a little bit now. Now it's already 2 meters high as intended in the project, and the ceremonial square with the monolith, both at day and night, because it can also be seen from the outside at night, as I said. Well, okay, this is. A building, well, it's a sports facility. Actually, this is, I'm going to show you just the swimming pool and the camping and the wood. The stadium was not, we designed it, but it was not built. There was no money. Well, it's this building here in a small town. And so it's kind of has a feature that stands out. It's a small tower for the elevator for access of people with disabilities. And if we enter the building, we enter to the swimming pool, climbing these stairs, like I'll do here, and I will quickly drive you through the building. So we enter, we change in the lockers, and we can then cross the building. We go up the stairs, and we can cross the building going to the swimming pool. So in the plan, we climb the stairs. We go men or women to each side, and then here common access to the swimming pool. Here is the lifeguards office with glass around it. This is the bar. the bar works, but it has two counters, one for the swimming pool and the other one, the interior counter, for the campers. People who are at the camping, they can come in and use this part of the bar. Okay, so we are going out towards the swimming pool through this access, and it can also be seen from the outside. So it has this interesting capacity of showing to the town people walking back and forth towards the swimming pool. And here we have the lifeguards office, and in the corner we have the bar. And at the bar, as you can see here, the bar is in the corner, and here you have the bar with the doors closed or with the doors open. And people buy their things, their drinks, and they can sit under this canopy, which is the seats for a sports field on the upper floor. And from there they can watch the swimming pool and the solarium, so that they are quietly protected under the canopy, while in front of them they have the swimming pools. And the canopy does this, and above it has a slab which only has one row of pillars connecting to the sports facility. But if we go on the other side, we can have access to the camping, and also access to the woods, where a mini golf was put, because this was an old woods, a Mediterranean wood, that they wanted to convert into urban park, and so some benches and furniture was put on the inside, so that people could use, and running tracks and some other sport equipments. But getting back to the building area and to the bar, this is the access from the camping. They can access the bar here, and here you see the counters of the bar open and closed, and so from here we have the camping. The camping, of course, because it's a hill, it was converted into terraces, built with these iron net boxes filled with stones that came out of the digging of the soil. So these stones did not come from anywhere else. They came from the same place where they were dug. And so campers can be here on their tents and looking at the building, where they have their facilities for showers and bathrooms. Going up these stairs, and once again framing the views and connecting to the outside, so that they can use them and have a connection to the city. And they also have a connection to a restaurant, which has an outside terrace overlooking the swimming pool. And here is the seats for the sports field that I told you before. And so that at the back they have a balcony overlooking the swimming pool. And well, at night the building is also lit, and also the camping, because these rows of light, to avoid vertical lampposts, which were elements that I did not want to use. So I chose to use these elements, which are more discreet at day and at night as well, and quite effective. And the same happens with the building, because if you notice, the building has no vertical lampposts. It only has this horizontal lighting inside the hand railing, so that what is lit is the floor, and it reflects on the facade, so that it gives this illusion of suspension, of levitation of the concrete canopy. Gennaro, may I quickly?
Yeah, just kind of 5 minutes.
Okay, then when I have to shut. Okay.
You can get 10.
Okay. This is a building for disabled people. By this, I mean people who, this actually, it's two buildings. So on this side here is a home where they live. And on this side here is an activity center, okay? So actually they are two buildings. So there is a central entrance with a courtyard, and so we can go through this way to the bedrooms where they live, and they also have activity rooms here, but they connect inside because they share the common activity rooms on this side, which is the activity center. That's people who do not live there but have impairments, disabilities of different kinds. They can come from the region, they spend the day there and have activities. And then this is the lower floor. We go down these stairs, and there are other activity and not restaurant, the dining room here, and the kitchen and the technical facilities for the staff. Well, this, you can see from this that it is a very steep landscape. And this is the landscape, this is the building, and this is the swimming pool that I just showed you before. It's on the same town. And this is landscape again, once again, but let's fly a little bit around it, and now get okay, on the ground again. And so we'll go around the building to see how it slides along with the topography. And I would like to notice that this has only one roof. So even though it's a quite big building and a big slab, a big roof, it has always the same inclination, and it's only one roof. It's not tilted, not two, it's just one. It's tilted, but only one. And we go around, and we see, there are some slides that are not charging, but it's okay. That's the entrance, and here on the lower, this is the lower floor, and so here the topography was moved so that these windows could be open. And why is that? And of course, these bridges had to be built. What I mean is, the building is facing, it's on a hill facing north, which is the worst condition I could have, because to get sunlight into the building, it's tilted on the opposite direction, on the wrong direction. So the only way was to put some windows on the south facade, which is this one. Upper floor is no problem, but lower floor would be, because this is a basement. So it's basically that, and we'll see it from the inside later. Well, these are just details of the construction and the accuracy that I think is important to have some effect, some quality of final results. The entrance with the courtyard I told you about, and here you see that we can go to both places. So first, let's visit the living area, and this is the corridor leading to the bedrooms, and in front of each bedroom entrance there are skylights, and these skylights, as you'll see here, these are the bedrooms. The bedrooms, we also designed these wardrobes at the entrance to use a cheap material and to have some acoustic condition in the rooms, because some of these people have neurological problems. They can't avoid to make noise. Maybe they are always saying ha 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 all day long. It's a problem they have, so in a place like this, acoustics become particularly important. And here you can see the skylights, and you can see what I wanted to explain. The frame is hidden, so the illusion it gives is that we are at open air without any window. which of course is an illusion. And now I'll show you the other wing, which is the activity center through the entrance, and the activity rooms. And here you see that the activity rooms, they have the connections also for safety purposes, so escapes to the outside if necessary. The other one didn't charge. It was a view of the gym. The long corridor, which functions as an internal veranda overlooking the landscape and the mountains. And at summertime, these sliding doors open, and of course it becomes almost like an outside balcony all along the corridor. Now we are in the lower floor at the activity room, and here you can see what I tried to explain before. These are the windows that I pointed out before, facing south, so that we get some real natural light on the pavement. But in summertime, because this is a very hot area in summer, they will open and they will provide cross ventilation to the building as well. So it's both for natural light and cross ventilation. And this one is not charging. This one is. So here we see how the building accompanies the inclination of the topography. And because I'm using schist stone, which is the natural stone of the area that even farmers use on their grounds, the building, even though it's very big, it's quite big in surface, it gets quite discrete on the facade, on the landscape. A frontal view of the two-floor part of the building, the only part that has two floors, and a view of some volumes and of the articulation of volumes across the property in this direction, so that it is by night. And this is the last project. So if you allow me, okay. I'm sorry, I don't want, but I had asked Ephisia, and by mistake she said 1 to 1.5, and I'm speeding as fast as I can, but I promise I'll be fast. This is high school. This is my latest built building work. So what existed before were 6 blocks, isolated blocks of classrooms. Each block had its own stairs in the center, and so the existing school was that. And this was a national program, and I was invited to design this one. And my option was to bring all the spaces together, so that the school, instead of having pavilions, separate pavilions, would become one single building. And for that, what I did was I filled the space in between the buildings. So these two buildings are new, and with that I created connections, interior connections, so that kids and everybody, professors, teachers, students, everybody can walk along these corridors. And this aisle here is new as well, and these are the sports fields and the gardens that already existed on the school grounds. Okay, so as you can see from here, it's quite long, and this is where the stairs used to exist. I demolished them to create this central the central skylight with this V-shaped roof, so that it provides both light and ventilation. This is the entrance, and the entrance has a canopy that follows and leads students to the entrance. And because the school didn't have, now it has a big hall that kids like, and they enter and they hang around and they stay here, and they move and they distribute to wherever they need to go. So it has a lot to do with circulation, because kids of this age, from 10 years old and to 18, this is a 1,300 students school, so it's a big school. It's about 15,000 square meter. surface. So they have to move around, and they like to run, and they had to, well, lots of kids. And the classrooms, they are also protected by shades. So you can see on the windows, they can be closed or open. And some visual arts, like drawing classrooms, where some special furniture we designed as well. These are the skylights I told you about. So the stairs were demolished to give way to this connection, because now from one floor to the other, even kids, they can talk to each other, and they can see when the classroom is opening or not, and they move around, and they can more easily communicate, which was one of the main goals. And these are the new spaces that connect the existing blocks. So these stairs, concrete stairs, are hanging from the wall, and also with this harp-like structure that holds them on the other edge. And kids like to move up and down on these transparent stairs, because they look like as if they were levitating from the ground. But this is the main space that they really like, because it's a place where they can be. It's for leisure, they sit there and talk and eat or whatever they want, or study, and they look outside and see the school and their friends outside. And we also designed the furniture so that they could use it. And an overall view of the school. So here you see where it connects. So I guess I made myself understood, but we built this part here. The rest already existed. So what we did was to turn separate pavilions into one long school connected on the inside, but connected on the outside as well, because there's a lot of light and transparency, so that kids go outside and easily distribute and go to the outside gardens to play. Furniture that we also designed, and they get to the sports field where they can run and yell and play, and they enjoy being there. The connection between the new and the old pavilions and the library, where the option was to sink the library 1 meter below, so that kids, even from the window on the entrance hall, they can look inside the library and feel the pleasure of going inside and check with their friends who are there, or check the books, and make the library space more appealing, and to have the kids longer time inside. This is the teachers' teachers' lounge, a ramp to go to the outside garden, which is on the upper floor, and with the sofas. So they have a panoramic view over the landscape, and way back is the Palace of Sintra, and the cafeteria with an acoustic ceiling, because a cafeteria, as you all know, is a very noisy place. So I think acoustics is very important, and it works very well, and so that kids can be there and eat, or have a long counter and eat looking outside to the garden. The auditorium of the school, so that for acoustic reasons I introduced this shell-shaped ceiling, and the seats they are retractable, so they can all be put away, and they can use it for other activities if they need the whole area. And once again, the connection to the outside. And because it's late and I must finish, I'm done. Thank you.